Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, just imagine for a second. What if you could eat bamboo that tastes just like sugar? Or a mango with basically no seed? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But believe it or not, today we're going to dive into how scientists are redesigning nature's menu and creating the foods of tomorrow, right now.
So, this really brings up a wild question. What if we could actually redesign the food we eat? I'm not just talking about farming methods. I mean changing the very basics of a plant, its taste, its size, its entire structure. And as you're about to see, this isn't science fiction anymore, not by a long shot.
All right, so our first stop on this journey is all about redesigning nature's menu. We're going to kick off our tour by looking at how researchers are taking plants we think we know and reimagining them in some, well, pretty unfamiliar ways.
And where are they starting? With one of our most basic tastes, sweetness. Get this, scientists are now figuring out how to engineer that sugary flavor into some really unexpected places.
So that brings us to the new age of sweetness. We're going to see how a tough, woody stalk and, a classic sugar source have been totally transformed.
Okay, first up, bamboo. You know bamboo, right? It's super strong, tough, grows incredibly fast, which makes it a fantastic sustainable resource. The big problem, that woody structure makes it completely inedible. So scientists looked at this and saw a huge opportunity. They asked, what if we could take this durable, super abundant plant and actually turn it into a source of food? And the solution they came up with is just remarkable. They used precise genetic editing to pop in some traits from sugarcane. And in doing so, they totally transformed the bamboo structure. So what was once hard and woody became thick, juicy, and unbelievably sweet.
I mean, the result was so successful that it's described as being, and I quote, as sweet as sugar. Now, just stop and think about the implications of that for a second. They didn't just make a plant sweeter. They potentially turned a sustainable building material into a brand new source of food and sugar. That's a game changer.
But they didn't stop there, not even close. The team then went right back to the original source of all that sweetness, sugarcane itself. And they asked a really simple question: how can we make this even better? What they came up with is golden sugarcane, a variety that's so soft you can apparently juice it as easily as wringing out a wet towel. And this isn't just a cool party trick. It could completely revolutionize sugar processing. Think about it. You could drastically cut down on the energy and all the heavy machinery you need just to get the juice out. Okay, so it's not just about changing the taste. Scientists are also getting into redesigning the actual physical form of our food. And that brings us to our next section, building a better fruit. Here, it's all about making our favorite fruits bigger, better, and just plain easier to eat.
Let's take the chiko fruit, for example. It's naturally sweet, which is great, but its tiny, egg-like size has always kind of held it back commercially. You just don't get that much fruit for your trouble, Well, using advanced selective breeding, they pulled off an absolutely incredible transformation. They managed to scale this thing up from the size of a little egg to the size of a papaya. That's a massive increase in food from just one fruit. We're talking a total revolution in yield here.
Next up, a fruit pretty much everyone loves, the mango. Delicious, right? But it's got that one famously huge, awkward seed right in the middle that's a pain to deal with. So the goal here wasn't about making it bigger, it was about perfecting the whole experience of eating it. And the result is what they call the hidden seed mango. Now, it's not totally seedless, but the pit is so much smaller that it makes the fruit way easier to slice up and prepare. It's a pretty simple change, but it removes one of the biggest hassles of eating one of the world's favorite fruits.
All right, now we're getting to the part where science really starts to feel like art. Our final section is called Painting with Produce, and this is where researchers are literally creating brand new colors, new varieties, and even whole new vegetables from the ground up.
Let's start with the grape. I mean, we're all used to red grapes, green grapes, but breeders have now pushed way beyond those traditional boundaries. They have cultivated completely new types with these wild shapes and flavor profiles to match. We're talking about long, skinny finger grapes, and even one they call lambo grapes. And look, this isn't just for fun.
It's about expanding the genetic diversity of our crops, which makes them stronger and more resilient.
Okay, this next one is, honestly, it's groundbreaking. Scientists didn't just tweak a plant here, they made a hybrid. They took a regular old gourd, introduced some genetic material from an onion, and what did they get? A totally new vegetable called the Tora gourd that blends traits from both. This is pure creation, not just cultivation.
And for our last innovation on this tour, let's turn to one of the most familiar fruits out there, the apple. The goal here was pretty simple, but also super ambitious, to make an apple for basically every single taste and every possible preference.
And you know what? They did it. They created a legitimate apple rainbow. They now have varieties that span a whole spectrum of colors, and each one has its own unique flavor and texture. The idea is to have the perfect apple for literally everyone. So, after seeing all of this, we land on the really big question, don't we? What does all this actually mean for the future of our farms and, for the food that ends up on our plates? Because what we've just seen is way more than just a collection of weird science experiments. Whether we're talking about creating more sustainable sugar or massively boosting crop yields, or even just cutting down on food waste by making fruit easier to prep, the message is crystal clear. The future of food is being designed right now in labs and on farms today.
So that leaves us with one final thought. These innovations are just amazing. So I have to ask you, which of these wonderful innovations amazed you the most? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.